Welcome to Fowl Play, the sequel to the Nut Heist. In the Nut Heist, the adventure focused on the forces of the Kingdom of Acorna. In this installment, the adventure revolves around the Black Eastern Chipmunk Squad, known as the Becks, the Delta Force of the Chipmunk Kingdom of Doosan, and their newest member, Elgar. Sit back and enjoy the adventure, for who knows what will happen in the woods when foul play is involved. Fowl Play by Trisha M. Wilson, Episode 9. The sun was about ready to go to sleep by the time Elgar had finished getting the fire started. It had taken Elgar the better part of the day to find a good camp location. It wasn't too far from a stream, and was near plenty of food. It was also secluded and far away from any nearby paths. He was certain nobody would ever be able to find him. As he had searched for the campsite, Elgar had collected enough twigs and sticks in order to make a small shelter. This quick thinking on his part made less work for himself and enabled him to give his full attention to building the shelter. Through much trial and error, he learned that what had appeared so simple when Eld had built the initial shelter was harder when you were alone and had nobody to help you or ask questions to. Finally, relaxing in front of his cozy fire, which he had made sure wasn't too big, Elgar let feelings of contentment and accomplishment flow through him. "Once I figured out what I was doing, it wasn't so hard," Elgar said to himself, "and Eld had me convinced that this would be difficult. What might be hard is when I'm supposed to hide, but he'll never find me. I'm the king of hiding. Whenever I played hide-and-seek with my brothers and sisters, they never were able to find me. I wouldn't be surprised if Eld gave up because my hiding spot was so good." Looking into the fire, Elgar wondered what his family was doing at this moment. Lost in thought, Elgar was startled to hear a rustling noise in the forest. Jumping to his feet, every animal imaginable flashed through his mind, from the tiniest of rabbits to a huge giant coming to eat him. Moving toward the edge of his camp, away from the light of the fire, with the image of a giant still in his mind, Elgar looked around. But because his eyes had not adjusted to the darkness of the night, he could not see anything. Taking a few more halting steps into the darkness, as his eyes became accustomed to the lack of light, he continued to look for anything that might be out there. "There's nothing to worry about. It was just my imagination," Elgar mumbled to himself as he tried to quell the fear running through him. Turning around to go back to the fire, he had only taken a step before the rustling started again. Whipping around, fear tingled up Elgar's spine and made the fur on his tail stand straight up. Something was out there. That he was sure of. Trying to sound brave, he said into the darkness, "Who's there?" The rustling stopped and then started again, this time moving a nearby bush. "You, behind the bush! Show yourself!" Elgar ordered, hoping his voice sounded stronger than he really felt. The bush moved again, and then a squirrel child came out into the open, followed by more children, not all of them squirrels. "What are you doing out here?" Elgar asked, looking at the children with confusion. Looking behind them, he expected to see an adult, but none appeared. "Where are your parents?" he asked, when nobody answered his first question. "They're in the city," one of the squirrels said. Realizing this conversation was going to take a long time, Elgar said, "Come close to the fire and sit down. Y'all look real tired." Elgar waited until the last child had passed him before following them to the fire. Taking his own seat and waiting for them to become comfortable, he said, "Now, who are you? What are you doing out here in the woods at this time of night, and why aren't your parents with you?" "I'm Rise," the older bird said, "and these are my sisters Nesta and Adern." "And I'm Arnie, and this is my sister Vanda and my friend Ebby," one of the older squirrels said. "My name is Elgar," Elgar said, introducing himself. "It's nice to meet you all, but you haven't answered any of my questions." "We got lost in the woods," Rise said. "But where are your parents?" Elgar asked, yet again, not understanding how 6 children could walk into the woods and get lost without anyone coming with them. "They didn't know we were going into the woods," Adern said. "We were going to Arnie's secret place and—" And we got turned around, unable to find our way back to the city. We only planned on being gone for a little while, but now they should be looking for us," Nesta finished. "I'm sure they are," Elgar said. "Where did you say you came from again?" "The kingdom of Aquerna," Vanda said, looking around the camp. "Do you have any food? I'm hungry." "So am I," Aduran said. "Yes," Elgar said, glad that he had thought to bring some extra food back to camp in case he got hungry later. Getting to his feet, he brought out a bag of nuts and seeds. "Eat as much as you want," he said, passing the bag to Vanda. As the bag got passed around and everyone began to eat their fill, Elgar tried to figure out what he was going to do with them. He was pretty sure Eld had meant for him to be alone tonight. But what Eld didn't know wouldn't hurt him. Right now, what was important was keeping these kids from harm, and that meant letting them stay in the camp with him during the night. "You know, your tale of adventure reminds me of a time I got lost in the woods with my brothers." Everyone looked at him with large eyes. "See, I couldn't have been any older than Abby here, and I wasn't one to listen to my parents during that time. My parents are farmers, and when I was young, I hated to work on the farm. So one day I convinced my younger brothers, who were a lot more responsible than I was, to go into the forest with me to play. We had a grand old time playing hide-and-seek, tag, all those fun games. Everything was going so good until it started to get dark, and it was time to go home. But that was when we realized we were in trouble. We hadn't been paying any attention to where we were in the forest while we'd been playing, so we weren't sure how to get home. At first we started to panic, but then I remember what my pa always said. He would say, 'Son, panicking is for city folk. You're country folk, and that means you don't panic. When you're in a bad situation, use your brain, and you'll get home safely every time.' So I looked around and used the sun to guide me home. We got home well after the sun was asleep, and got a long talking to by my ma. Pa wasn't too happy either when he realized we hadn't done anything except play all day." Elgar finished with a laugh at the memory. The 6 children just watched him with different degrees of shock and amazement on their faces. "You mean you got lost in the forest too?" Arnie asked, as if not sure that had been the point of the story. "Yep, I expect that most adults did one time or another during their youth. Just ask your parents when you get home," Elgar said. "But how are we going to get home?" Vanda asked. "Well, I don't know exactly where that city of yours is. I do know which way you came from, and I expect an awful lot of people are out looking for you. We can't do anything while it's dark, but at first light, we'll start walking the way you came, and then we'll just see if we can't find someone to help you take you the rest of the way home," Elgar said with confidence. Glancing around, he noticed the younger children's eyes closing in their tiredness. "It's time for bed. We have a long trip ahead of us, and we all need a good night's sleep. We should all fit in the shelter." Getting to their feet, Nesta asked, "Where are you going to sleep?" "Don't worry about me. I'll just sleep on the ground in front of the fire. Now, get to bed." It took a few minutes to get everyone into the shelter and comfortably situated, but finally everyone was lying down. "Night," Arnie said. "Good night," Elgar replied. "Where could they be?" Lucina asked Ulrich as he sat down in front of his very late dinner. "I don't know. We called out their names and searched for any sign of them, but we never saw anything that would help us locate them. We really believed we'd be able to catch up to them. Where could they have gone?" Ulrich asked himself for the umpteenth time. "How are Arwell and Tesney taking it all?" Lucina wanted to know. "They're handling it as well as can be expected. They are worried out of their minds and wanted to stay out there searching into the night. It took everything I had left to convince them that course of action would only result in them becoming lost, and then we'd have to divert forces in order to find them. They weren't happy about it, but they finally saw reason and came back, though I don't think they'll get any sleep." "Shall I have some tea sent to their room? It might help them get some rest," Lucina suggested. "You could try, but I really don't think sleep is going to be possible for them," Ulrich said. A knock on the door stopped any further conversation. "Enter," Lucina said, as Ulrich continued to eat his meal. All the searches are accounted for, Roswitha said. We're going to start searching tomorrow morning when the sun rises. I have also sent a message to the Blevins requesting more help. Should they agree to come, they should arrive late tomorrow morning. Have you formulated a new search plan? Ulrich asked. Yes, Your Majesty. We are going to do a fan distribution, where we all start at the point where they left the festival and then fan out into as many different directions as possible. I am hopeful that if we search this way, we shall be able to find the children fast, as long as they stopped walking during the night. I should certainly think they would. No smart animal roams the forest at night, Lucina said. Go get some sleep. I want to meet with you before we start searching in the morning, Ulrich said. Yes, Your Majesty. Good night, Roswitha said before she left the room. Tomorrow is going to be a long day, Lucina said. I'm going to send some tea to our guests, and then I'll meet you in our room. All right, my dear. I'll see you in a few minutes, Ulrich said, watching her leave. A few minutes passed before there was another knock on the door. Enter, Tancred, Ulrich said, knowing who would be at the door before it even opened. Watching his trusted friend and counsel enter the room with less enthusiasm than normal, Ulrich felt compassion. Sit, my friend. Tancred sat and looked everywhere except at his king. Look at me, Ulrich said softly. Not wanting for those eyes to meet his, Ulrich saw the torment Tancred felt. There is nothing I can say to you to ease your pain. You know the mistakes you made, and I know you will never repeat them. Know, however, that I blame myself much more than I blame you. But be quiet and listen. The Queen and I put too much responsibility onto your shoulders, and it was not fair. We knew you would have to stay up and look at those documents, yet we had you look at them anyway, because there is nobody we trust more than you. That is also why you were chosen to chaperone the children. It wasn't right for us to heap so much responsibility upon you, however, and I ask you forgiveness. Of course, Your Majesty, Tancred said immediately. Good. Now, tomorrow I want you to help with the search. It will do you some good to get out there and be productive. I suggest, however, that you stay far away from Arwell and his family. If they get you alone, I don't know what they might do to you. Now try to sleep, and I will see you before the sun wakes. Yes, Your Majesty. Tancred got up and walked to the door. He put his paw on the handle, but he did not turn it. Sir, I want to thank you for being so understanding. I swear upon all the gods that this will never happen again. I know it won't, Ulrich said confidently. Good night. Good night, Your Majesty. Foul Play was written by Trisha M. Wilson and read by R.L. Ferguson. For comments or compliments, just head over to Colbyjack.net and look for our contact page. Foul Play is released under Creative Commons non-commercial no derivatives license. Share it with whoever you want, just don't sell it or change it. Have a nice day. Foul Play is now available in ebook format from Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and Smashwords. While you're there, check out our other titles such as The Nut Heist, the prequel to Foul Play, or Nightmare, a tale of obsession and murder. Links to all her wonderful titles are available at our homepage at Colbyjack.net.